Okay, we are back in the Talmud, the Thinking Talmudist series. Welcome back to our friends online. Thank you, Ed, for so faithfully handling lunch every week. We are in the middle of 32a. 32a in Tractate Brachot. Okay, so we left off last week. We finished off with God accepts the responsibility that perhaps the Jewish people sinned because they had too much, because God gave us too much gold and silver, and therefore we brought that gold and silver to idolatry. Having mentioned the sin of the golden calf, the Gemara proceeds to interpret some of the verses that describes that event, many of which relate to Moses' prayer on that occasion. So it says, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe lech reid. Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, go descend, for your people that you have brought up from Egypt have become corrupt. My lech reid, what does it mean when it says, go descend to the people? Amar Rabbi Lezer says the following. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, Hashem told Moshe, Moshe reid migdulasecha, right? Moses, descend from your position of greatness, right? Klum nasati l'cha gdula el b'shvi Yisrael. Did I not grant you your greatness, your great stature, just because of the Jewish people, just so that you can serve the Jewish people, for the sake of the Jewish people? And now the Jewish people sinned. So what do you need your great status for? Immediately Moses' strength ebbed, and he lacked the strength to speak as an advocate for Yisrael. However, as soon as God said, release me and I shall destroy them, right, to the Jewish people, those who sinned in the sin of the golden calf, thereby indicating that Moses, that he had it within his power to protest against the destruction of Israel. Amar Moshe realized right away, one second, why is God telling me this? He's telling me this because I had the power to change it around. If that's the case, I'm going to use that power. He says, Amar Moshe says, Davar zeh talui bi, this is dependent on me. I'm the one who can change the fate of the Jewish people. I can save them. He says, Miyad amad v'nischazik b'tfilo v'bikesh rachamim. Immediately he arose and strengthened himself in prayer and pleaded for mercy for Israel. The Gemara presents a parable for the above. Mashal HaMelech shekasa al beno. This is analogous to a king who became enraged at his son, V'haya makeo maka gdola, and was striking him a great beating. V'haya ohavo yoshev lefanav u'misyara lama lo davar, and the king's friend sat before him, witnessing the punishment, but feared to say anything to the king in defense of the prince. Amar HaMelech, the king said to the prince, Ilmole ohavi zeh sheyoshev lefanai harakticha. Were it not for my friend sitting right here in front of me, I would kill you. He would say, he's saying to his prince. Amar davar zeh tolui bi. In that case, the matter depends on me, the friend says. He says, Miyad amad v'yitzilo. Immediately he did whatever he could to protect the son. So Moses understands, I have a responsibility here. Now, why does the Talmud tell us this? Why does the Talmud tell us this? Because there's many, many times, and I've heard this dozens and dozens and dozens of times, where people tell me in classes, Rabbi, God is busy enough. He doesn't have time to deal with my little things. God doesn't have time to deal with my little issues that I'm dealing with. I think it's wrong. I think it's a wrong perspective. Of course God cares about your little things. Right? The Talmud in Sanhedrin tells us again and again, a person should repeat to himself, Bishvili nivra olam, the world was created for me. You know what? The whole world going on around you, you know what it's for, Ronnie? It's for you. To the point where our sages tell us that everything you hear, everything you interact with, every person you interact with, every news report that you listen to, you know why you heard it? It's for you. To teach you something. It's to inspire you. It's to give you a lesson. It's to wake you up. The Baal Shem Tov says, everything you see is a reflection of yourself. Example I give is you're walking around in Walmart and you're going up and down the aisles and you see a mother or a father yelling at their child. Why did you need to see that? You could have been 2 aisles over and not seen it. Why did you have to experience that? You know why? God is sending you a message, says the Baal Shem Tov. It's a mirror of yourself. That's what you look like when you get angry. That's what you look like when you scream at your children. You think to yourself, oh, why can't the person be a little bit more patient? Why can't it be a little bit more calm? Why can't... That's you. That is you. God is sending you that message so that you can see a very clear glimpse into your own self. You wouldn't have to see. You know, there's a story that's told about Rabbi Yashiv. Rabbi Yashiv was one of the greatest sages in the past 30 years. I mean, he passed away when he was over 100 years old, but he was the leader of the Jewish people. I mean, he was the greatest scholar alive. His responsa on halachic challenges, particularly dealing with modern day technology and medical science, was unbelievable. So he once had a conversation with his wife where they made a pact between them that when whoever dies first will come back to the other in a dream and tell them why Mashiach hasn't come yet, why the Messiah hasn't yet come. Now you may remember there was a story back in the 90s of a soldier who was kidnapped. His name was Nachshon Waxman. Nachshon Waxman. I was in Israel then. I was in Yeshiva then. I remember the entire country, I think it was a Sunday or a Monday that he was kidnapped, and they gave a deadline. The Palestinians who were holding him hostage gave a deadline that if they don't release 300 or 400 Palestinian terrorist prisoners, then they're going to kill him. And they gave them a 9 o'clock deadline, Friday night. And Rabin was prime minister at the time. And there was a lot of tension. It was like, what are we going to do? And I remember that we had the rabbi said that in every single institution, we must pray. And I remember we had Shabbos came in early. It was a regular early Shabbos, so let's say 5 o'clock Shabbos came in, or 4:30, and we had a quick meal, and then we prayed, and I remember we were saying the Tehillim, the Psalms, the whole yeshiva together. You can hear it 3 blocks, 4 blocks away. We were saying it on top of our lungs, everyone united. You can hear the other yeshivas across the street, and the other one down the block. Everyone was saying Psalms. It was unbelievable. The unity of the Jewish people was just on a level that was, almost never seen before. Turns out that he was murdered. He was murdered by the Palestinians, and the Israelis found out where he was, and they stormed the compound. They killed all the Palestinians, but before they were able to get to save his life, the Palestinians shot him. And it turned out that it was a very painful time for the whole Jewish people as a family. Everyone felt that Nachshon was their brother, and he was their cousin, and he was their, it was like everyone felt close to the story. And the father said an amazing thing at the funeral. He said, I just want you to know that the legacy of Nachshon will be that he was able to unite the Jewish people. He was able to unite, even if it was just for a day, even if it was just for an hour, even if it was just for a minute, that all the Jewish people felt like we're brothers one another. We're not from different sects, and we're not from different movements, and we're not from different affiliations. We're all Jews. We're all brothers to Nachshon. He says that's his legacy. An amazing thing. Either that night or a few days later, Rabbi Yashiv, whose wife passed away shortly before the story, came to him in a dream. And she said in the dream that Mashiach, the unity of the Jewish people, was so incredible, Mashiach was about to come. That's how close we were. He was ready to come. There was one barrier. One barrier. There was too much dishonesty in business among the Jewish people. And that was the barrier that wasn't letting it happen. Wow. And then you hear a story of a terrible story, an embarrassment for the Jewish people, of Bernie Madoff. Right? It was obviously 20 years later, 15 years later. But you wonder to yourself, why do we need to hear such a story? Why do the Jewish... You always wonder, I mean, it's like he's not the only person who's ever done a Ponzi scheme. On that scale, perhaps, yes. I mean, Mr. Ponzi did it on $30 million. I mean, this guy did it on $60 billion. Right? But you wonder, what's going on over here? Why do we need to have such a story? Why does it have to be everywhere in the world in front page cover? Right? Front page story all across the world. The biggest Ponzi scheme in the history. Who is it? Of course, a Jewish guy. It has to be a Jew. Maybe it's for us to say, you know something? We need to be a little bit more careful in this area. Maybe we need to, yes, it's cheating. I'm sure that it didn't start with 60 billion. I'm sure it started with 60 cents. You know what? It's 60 cents on my tax return. It's not a big deal. $60 is not a big deal. $600, $6,000, $60,000, $600,000, $6 million. Before you know it, it's 60 billion. It didn't come one day, I have this idea, I'm going to cheat everyone, No, it started with something small and it's okay. So it becomes a little bit bigger and it's okay. So it's a little bit bigger. But Hashem, I believe, the message I wanted to take from it is that this is a message, like the Baal Shem Tov tells me, where God is telling me, and perhaps everyone else who read it, we need to be more careful. We need to be more precise. Do you know that the Chafetz Chaim wrote an entire book dedicated to honesty in business? Because he had a grocery store. And you can imagine, everybody wanted to buy from the Chafetz Chaim. If you could go to the grocery and also see the sage of the generation, wouldn't you go? I would. You know what the Chafetz Chaim did? The Chafetz Chaim kept his store open until he sold enough to have money for Shabbos, and then he closed the store. As soon as he had enough money till Shabbos, he'd close the store and he'd put a sign, go support the competition. You can go buy all your groceries from him. I have enough for Shabbos, he was closed. But the Chafetz Chaim knew, imagine, right, if you weren't honest with your scale. If you weren't honest with your scale, right? So if this is supposed to be a pound, and it's supposed to be a pound of your, right? And this isn't accurate, what's going to happen? Right? I can cheat you. Meanwhile, it's half a pound, and you right? Or it's, you understand, I can cheat you and tell you this is a pound, and you get a half a pound of potatoes, really it's, right? Instead of a pound. So the Chafetz Chaim wrote an entire book on being accurate and honest on every single penny. On our weights. You know, who dedicates an entire book on inspiring Jewish people to be accurate with a millicent? That's the Chafetz Chaim. Why? Again, perhaps that is something that we can learn from that story, that if everything is going so beautifully for the Jewish people, you have such incredible unity, you have such incredible harmony, and just one thing that we're flawed with, that little dishonesty, that little thing, perhaps is something very serious for us to focus on. The Gemara continues to interpret the verses describing Moses. And his exchange with Hashem. And now release me, and my anger will flare against them, and I shall annihilate them, and I shall make you into a great nation. This is what God is sort of pleading with Moses. Moses, leave me alone here. Let me just destroy them, and I'll make you into a great nation. Don't worry. You'll still be the leader of another nation, but these guys, let me wipe them out, because they've rebelled against me so terribly, I need to rid myself of them. Amar Rabbi Avo says, Imali mikro kasuv, ef shel yomro. Were this verse not actually written in the Torah, it would be impossible to say it. It would be impossible. Imagine. Melamed shitfaso Moshe LaKadosh Baruch Hu. This teaches us that Moshe seized the Holy One, blessed is He. He grabbed him. It's like someone who grabs his fellow by his sweater, by his clothes. You grab him, you don't let him go. Grab him by the shirt. right? You do that to your clients, don't you? You say, buy this house or else, right?
All the time.
Right? That's what a good realtor would do, right? Anybody, by the way, needs a good realtor? Alex is your guy. It was just a plug for you. So, I was going there, right? Amar Lefanov. And Moshe says in front of the Almighty, Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, Ein ani manichacho ad shetimcho v'tislach lehem. I'm not going to let go of you till you tell me that you're going to forgive the Jewish people. Imagine that. You stand there and you grab God by the shirt, so to speak, and you say, I'm not letting go till you forgive the Jewish people. Unbelievable. Right? You have the audacity to tell God what to do. Right? It was Moshe to tell God what to do. Right? So what's the answer? God opened the door for Moshe to say that. Because God is negotiating with him. Right? If God just did it, you see that God had the same thing with Abraham. God tells Abraham, I'm going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Why is God telling him that? Because you can infer from that, which Abraham did, God is asking me to intercede on their behalf. So that forever we will know that God listens to every single word that we pray. Every single request that we have, God is listening. He's saying, hey, you have the power to change it. You have the power to change God's decree. You have the power to influence the Almighty's decisions. We have unbelievable power. Unbelievable power. I don't know if anyone heard the story. I may have said it here. I think I may have said it here. But if I did, forgive me. You may have forgotten it, so I'll remind you. There's a synagogue. I heard this from Rabbi Melech Biderman, right? Who lives in Israel. He's a very influential, inspirational person. He speaks in Yiddish. And I actually, as a child, I learned Yiddish. I learned in a school that was a Hasidic school for 8 years. So I speak a decent Yiddish. And I love listening to him because it gives me first is he's so inspirational. He says such beautiful things. Every word he says is sweet and beautiful. It's like gems. And then I can also practice while I'm at it. I can practice my Yiddish, so it's excellent. But one of the stories he shared was there's a synagogue in Williamsburg, which is a very densely populated Hasidic community. And this little synagogue, this little shtibel is like a little home that's turned into a shul. So they have a special twist, a special angle. Every synagogue has their thing. This one, its specialty is nobody talks in shul. That is the policy of the synagogue. We're going to have a special synagogue where nobody talks in shul. An incredible thing. That nobody in that shul, for the time since they started that synagogue, has gotten sick. Unbelievable. A guy joined the synagogue and he got sick a few weeks later. So the synagogue got together and they said, we're going to accept upon ourselves not to talk in synagogue. So they asked the rabbi, what do you mean? Our whole synagogue is based on this policy of not talking in synagogue. So what is this new thing that we're accepting on ourselves? No. He says that policy is in this synagogue, but what we're accepting is for the next 40 days, we're accepting upon ourselves not to talk in any synagogue. They all accepted upon themselves. By the time the 40 days was over, this guy was healed. Healed from his illness. Okay. One of the other members of the synagogue, a little while later, his wife got a very, very bad diagnosis. She wasn't feeling well. They went to one professional and they took several images, and they went to another. They sent him to the world-renowned physician, and they said, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing. It's really pointless because this growth, this tumor is so big that there's really it's pointless. It's over. So they asked what to do. They got advice to have the surgery. To have the surgery. Okay, they looked at all the images, and this is a pretty significant, it's very serious, and if something is to be done, it's to be done very, very quickly. Time is of essence. Okay. So this guy, who's a member now of the synagogue, doesn't talk in the synagogue. He's in the waiting room. His wife is on the operating table. And the surgeon, when they went in, said it's going to be about 90 minutes. 90 to 120 minutes, the whole surgery. Waiting 90 minutes. Nothing happens. 120 minutes. Nothing happens. He's waiting. He's getting nervous now. This is a serious operation. It's not, it should have taken, at longest 90 minutes, 120 minutes. It's still not. He's getting all nervous. He goes downstairs to the hospitality room. And in the hospitals in New York, there's an incredible thing. It's called a Bikur Cholim room. It's a hospitality room that the Jewish community puts together. And all patients and patients' families welcome to go there. It's well stocked with food and drinks and beds, and the hospitals give them one room, and they furnish the room to make it. Anybody who wants can come, and I benefited myself greatly from these rooms when my wife was giving birth in Nyack Hospital in New York, and when my father was having his triple bypass in Good Samaritan Hospital. A man walks into the room, and Friday afternoon he says, "Where are you for Shabbos?" I'm like, "I have no idea. Probably be in the room here." He says, "What do you mean? We have a house across the street that we own, that you can go. There's 2 beds there for you and your brother, and we have kugel, and they have cholent, and they have food, and they have unbelievable. It's unbelievable. All for everything you need for Shabbos. How much is it? It's free. It's free." And they gave me a paper exactly which door is a mechanical door, not an electric door, so that I can enter and exit the hospital without having to trigger the electricity. It's unbelievable kindness. It's really amazing. So this individual goes he's waiting for his wife to get out of surgery. He goes downstairs, and he's there. He's feeling a little bit, worried and concerned, a little bit very. And he turns to God in heaven. He says, "God, listen, I'm not a big businessman. I'm not a big, deal maker. But let's make a deal." He says, "I'm going to commit." I believe it was 180 days, a half a year. He was going to commit to not talk in any shul whatsoever in the merit of his wife's healing. He says, "Give her a healing." Okay. That's it. I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't even know if you hear me. That's what I'm willing to do. One mitzvah, one something. Goes back upstairs, and eventually the surgeon comes out and he says, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what to tell you, he says. He's getting nervous. He says, the reason why the surgery took so long is because we had the images. It was confirmed that there was this tumor. He says, we went in, we did the surgery, and we couldn't find anything. There's nothing there. He says, we're looking and searching. Maybe it's here, maybe it's there. And we're looking at the images again. It's like it doesn't make any sense. It's gone. We have no rhyme or reason. We have no understanding of how this can happen. We're talking about stage 4. This is severe. This is like, it's gone. One mitzvah. The power of one mitzvah that a person takes upon themselves. It's unbelievable. I'll tell you one other story. This is the way I heard it. I don't know if it's accurate. Okay, but there was a great rabbi. Some of you may have heard of. His name was Rabbi Scheinberg. Rabbi Scheinberg didn't have any children. And he wanted children, desperately. So he made a deal with God. What was his deal with God? He says, listen, I'm going to accept upon myself a mitzvah and fulfill it to its perfection. And in that merit, give me a child. What was the mitzvah he chose? He chose the mitzvah of tzitzis. And what he did is that because there are over 100 different opinions of exactly how the tzitzis should be strung and how they should be tied, and the blue and the not the blue, and all of the different qualifications, he wore over 100 different pairs of tzitzis every day. And if you looked at him, if you think a football player is large, right? You look at him, he was a small man, and he had a pile of tzitzis like this. I went to his house, I brought my children, my older children, we lived right across the street from him in Jerusalem, to get a blessing. He was an unbelievable, righteous Torah scholar and a sage. He was a special man. But he fulfilled that one mitzvah in its perfection. Of course, he had a son. His son today runs the yeshiva, right? His son is the head of the yeshiva, right? But with the power of one mitzvah, that a person can turn their whole life around, their whole destiny can change by one mitzvah. God says, "Do for me, I do for you." It's very clear. It says it all over. We see it all over the prophets. We see it all over the Torah. One mitzvah. If a person makes a commitment, right, the commitment of putting on tefillin every day, a person makes a commitment to not even the small thing of, okay, I'm not going to necessarily eat kosher yet, but I won't eat milk and meat together. You know what a commitment that is? Do you know how God values that? See, most of us think that God wants us to be perfect. It's wrong. The Mishnah tells us very clearly, God does not expect you to be perfect. Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor. Your job is not to be perfect. But you're not allowed to stop striving for perfection. Are you on the upward escalator or the downward escalator? Which one are you heading? Are you heading in the direction of taking a step and going up? That means one small step. One small step. I'll tell you, I may have told you this story. It's an incredible story, but it just shows the greatness of the Jewish people. My mother-in-law had a study partner that she learned with. Every week, Partners in Torah. We have Partners in Torah in person, and there's an international Partners in Torah, 1-800-STUDY-42, the number 4 and the number 2, study-42, and they'll partner you up. You'll have a study partner they'll match you with. They'll learn one-on-one. It happens to be, I'm a little prejudiced. It's an incredible organization. My father-in-law started it and runs it, so it's an unbelievable organization. So my mother-in-law had a study partner, and my mother-in-law told me the most incredible story. She says a few weeks before Pesach, and this young and her study partner, my mother-in-law tells her, just by the way, the next couple of weeks, it's going to be right before Pesach, right before Passover, and it's very hectic, and we'll continue after Passover. So the lady inquires, she says, what is Passover? Like, what is this holiday? So she explains, the Jewish people, Egypt, bread, we don't eat bread, we only eat matzah, so it goes through the whole thing. Okay, it's a little bit above her head, this woman, she's just a beginner. She says, okay, no bread, which days? Okay. So after they resume their learning after Pesach, she tells my mother, she says, you're going to be so proud of me. She says, I picked up my children from school, and they were so hungry, so we stopped by McDonald's, and she says, I'm telling you, I scraped off every last piece of bread from their cheeseburger. Oh. And I guarantee you, I'm telling you this, I guarantee you that the Almighty smiled, and He says, I love my children. Look, what they do know they love, what they do know they keep. Take that step, that one step. What she knows is that bread on Passover is not permitted. Does she know that cheeseburger is not permitted? No, she doesn't know. But what she does know, she does. That's a beautiful thing. Today, she's completely Torah observant. That woman, completely, and her children are in yeshiva, and it's an amazing transformation. One mitzvah. And people think like me, one mitzvah, what's that? Yeah, one mitzvah. Take one mitzvah. That's it. And that's what we wanted to hopefully be inspired today, is to take one step, one single step. Our sages tell us that a person should never say, I will never say Lashon Hara again. I will never, right? Between 9 o'clock and 9:05 every morning, I'll make it my business. I'll put my alarm clock on, and I'll make sure that I don't say Lashon Hara. I won't talk slanderously about another person. I won't talk about other people. And that 9 o'clock to 9:05 can become 9 o'clock to 9:10, and then to 9:15, eventually. But one small step. And I told you about the woman. We have all of the mitzvah magnets that we give out for free. Started because there was a woman who came over to me at one of our classes and said, Rabbi, I'm ready. Just tell me what to do. I'm ready to start. I'm ready I'm ready. I'm convinced. I know the Torah is true. I know that the Torah was given to us at Mount Sinai. I believe in God. I believe in the Torah. I believe in everything. But I need the steps. Give me the step. I told her to take one light switch and don't turn that light switch on or off the entire Shabbos. One light switch. Put a sticker on it. Say Shabbos. Make it your special Shabbos light that you don't turn on or off. That's it? I'm like, yeah, that's it. And then a few months later, she came back to me and she says, okay, I do it now and it's, everybody knows that's the light you don't turn on or off. It's our Shabbos light. I said, okay, now take another light switch. Right? And eventually, her whole Shabbos is observed. Right? Today, she doesn't drive on Shabbos. Today, she doesn't use she doesn't manipulate any electricity on Shabbos. Right? It's an amazing thing. She keeps kosher. Right? Her whole life changed. From what? From one light switch. It's a long process. We have to start with one thing. That's it. Don't try to jump. Don't take something which is too big. One small step. For man, one huge leap for our Judaism. It's really what it is. It's a huge leap for our Judaism. Take one single step. And no one's going to dictate for you. I certainly won't. What that should be. But every person should find something, that one little step that we can take. Have a great Shabbos, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
Rabbi.